We're here today to create a human chain against the proposal to create a chained CPI that will affect Social Security and Medicare.
We have been giving reduced rates and tax breaks and exemptions to some of the wealthy and the corporations. We need services. We shouldn't keep fighting, well, who's willing to give up this and who's willing to give up that? They have more than their physical needs met. They never miss a meal.
If they had to pay their taxes, all of the Medicare, Social Security, everything
would be well funded.
Is there anything wrong with Social Security?
Oh, it's a good thing. It should never be privatized.
Why are you here today?
For the Chained CPI, for Social Security and Medicare, to leave it alone, don't touch it. It works the way it is.
Everyone pays for Social Security the same percentage rate, including the very wealthy.
Social Security is something we earned, we paid into it, and we should get it, and I think the Chained CPI, they should do it to Congress.
I've been working since I was 16, and I've been paying into Social Security, but I don't think it's going to be there. There's so much corporate greed that they're going to find a way, and there's so much money in politics right now that if we don't do something to get our voice back, we're going to lose all the social benefits.
What's the entity that's removing these rights?
Corporate greed and money in politics and the rich.
There really are those four things.
Yeah, the 1%.
The 1%.
Absolutely.
They are taking all of this stuff away at a rapid rate, and they created this chained CPI because it's too complicated for people to understand.
Absolutely.
The general public support Social Security, but they don't understand what chained CPI is all about. There's a cost of living formula that the government has used since 1972, I think, to give cost of living increases to Social Security beneficiaries. Because once you retire, your benefits will not go up without a cost of living adjustment. They want to weaken that formula. That means over time, each year, you get a smaller portion, and cumulatively, it can be a disaster. If you retire today, in 20 years, you could be losing $6,000 a year in retirement benefits. So it's a benefits cut.
It rolls into the future.
It's a poison pill that goes on living. We want to expand and extend Social Security, not contract it. This doesn't affect just Social Security and Medicare. It affects almost all of the social benefit programs of the federal government, veterans benefits, all kinds of things use the same formula, and it will be a general cut in the standard of living across the board for kids, for elders.
I'm a younger person. I'm the minority in honestly in labor, under 35. So I go out to support Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid events all the time because I'm of that generation where people believe that we're not going to have it when we grow old.
What would you say to all these young people who just say, I know that when I'm retired, it's not going to be there anymore?
That's going to be pretty much true if they don't fight for it. Young people need to understand what their stake is in defending Social Security. If they want to be able to retire with dignity and not live in abject poverty, they need to fight for it now. They've got to organize their own generation, their peers, reach out to their social networks, get people to start calling into the members of Congress and not asking, demanding that they back off on Chained CPI.
If these young people do this and don't just give up, what does it take?
They got to be in the streets, they got to be in rallies, they've got to write and call their members of Congress and the Senate. They've got to do all of those things, not one of them.
If they are very assertive about this, what is the likelihood of success?
You can't predict success. We know absolutely where there is no struggle, there is no progress. In fact, it goes backward. So if you don't push forward, they push on you and you go backward. That's 100% ironclad. If you do nothing at all, you move backward.
My parents fought in unions. They fought on the streets for the Social Security benefits I'm enjoying now.
Social Security is a social contract between generations. The elder generation has a contract with the younger generation and vice versa. We have an obligation to the generation coming up to fight to guarantee not just for ourselves, but for them.
For myself and future generations, we'd like to see the CPI index left as is and leave Social Security as is, which is about 78 years old and hasn't contributed 1 cent to the national debt.
That's the real chain.
That's right.
We are chained by this compassionate, beneficial, empathetic, caring chain.
Do you want a dog-eat-dog society in which everybody's out for themselves? Or do you want a compassionate, caring society where people care for one another?
Social Security is our right. We will not give up our fight. Social Security is our right. We will not give up our fight.
Social Security is our right.
We will not give up our fight.
No cuts.
No cuts. No cuts. No cuts. No cuts. No cuts. No cuts.
Some cuts don't heal. This was the 50th celebration of this kind today. In 50 different cities in this United States, union people, seniors, and young people stood together and said, do not cut our Social Security, it is ours. Do not cut our Medicare, it is ours. Do not cut the Medicaid, it is ours. Every civilization is judged by how they treat the youngest, the oldest, and those people who cannot take care of themselves. If these cuts go through, our nation will be judged failing in moral backbone. Our representatives will be judged in failing the people they serve. Your parents and grandparents fought for Social Security. Many of us fought for Medicare and Medicaid. But like my favorite union song, freedom doesn't come like a bird on the wing. Freedom doesn't come like the April rain. Freedom, it's a hard-won thing. You've got to fight for it, work for it, day and night for it. And every generation's got to win it again. Pass it on to your children, mothers. Pass it on to your children, brothers. Freedom, it's a hard-won thing. And every generation has to fight for it again. I have children. They are union members. They are workers. They are doing everything right. They are giving in for their security later. My daughter has 3 children. They're triplets. They are 2 years and 9 months old. And if we fight for it, they'll still have it. And when they get older, they're going to fight for it, for their children and their children's children. Are you willing to call your senators and Pelosi and your congresspeople and tell them no cuts? No cuts! No cuts! No cuts! Deborah Berger, president of the California Nurses Association.
When my father died when he was 38, my mother had 3 girls to raise, and she did it on Social Security. So a lot of people may not even think when they're in their teens, their 20s, their 30s, it could happen to you, and Social Security will be there for you. The California Nurses Association want to make sure that it's there for their children and their children's children. Don't let those goddamn politicians take that away from all of us. We gotta make sure that J-Fi, who has an office up here, would probably cost more than what we get in a year. She can afford to not have Social Security, but everyone else is not in her boat or on her private jet. So I want to make sure that everybody gets up there and makes sure she understands what it's really like to be down here on the ground. Don't let them divide us. Without your voices carrying on, they don't hear a thing we say. Make your voices loud and heard.